So first and foremost, I'm sure you guys have seen it. Yesterday, there was a shooting at Utah University.
Utah Valley University.
Utah Valley University. I'm
Yes.
sorry. It was the Charlie Kirk shooting. And kind of before I dive a little deeper into it, I kind of just want to know, like, what is your guys' takes? Like, all four of you, kind of get your thoughts on it.
Here's my thing. Charlie Kirk, God rest his soul, was a terrible fucking human being. He was a bigot. He was anti-Islamic. And he was anti-poor. I say all this because even though in my opinion isn't necessarily your opinion, Charlie Kirk was a piece of shit. However, Charlie Kirk did not deserve to die. He did not deserve to be executed in the fashion he was. And all I can think about is his wife and his two kids and think nobody deserves that. That was fucking terrible.
Agreed. Never liked the guy. I've seen some of his podcasts and his debates with. It just sounded like he was debating uneducated people and just making fun of them on their views if they couldn't back their views up as eloquently as he could on his argument. I appreciate the fact that he would go to universities and engage in students that would follow him and students that opposed his views, because that's the place where you want that dialogue to happen at universities and schools, because you got to challenge yourself. If someone always agrees with you, you're not going to open up. You're not going to have an expanded view of the world, right? So this guy did challenge people, try to convince them on his views, which is okay, right? America, First Amendment, freedom of speech. He would go to universities and say, look, these are my views, and challenge people on them, which I think is a great way to express or exercise the First Amendment right. Challenge people on their views in a healthy dialogue or discussion or debate. But as Ben was saying, even though I never liked the guy, I don't agree with a lot of his views. That should have never happened, man. That's just sickening. And his wife and it looked like he had two young kids. Like,
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I think him and his wife were only married like 4 years.
Yeah.
Ladies?
I mean, I'm personally not a fan, but, and I think that everybody's entitled to their opinion. What bothers me about this is how it was done so publicly, and that doesn't go away on the internet. So
No.
his kids are going to be seeing this. His wife is going to be traumatized because it's not going to go away anytime soon. It's just in the family, anybody in the family is going to have this in the news and on social media, and it's just disheartening to see and know what they're going to be going through.
Yes, I will definitely say exactly what everybody else has already said. Didn't like the guy. Definitely did not deserve to die, especially for expressing his opinion. We all have opinions. But I just don't like the fact that people are picking, choosing, decided to publicize this when there's a bigger problem, and the problem of what he was defending. I guess it's just a lot of irony in it. I really pray for his family, but other than that, we just...
And Tams is right about that internet stuff. There's My Naked Ass is on YouTube. I'm not going to tell anybody where My Naked Ass is on YouTube, but it's on YouTube, and it's still up.
Let's find that. Find that.
Check
that
grab
website.
that.
It's over 20 years old, even. So my ass has been on YouTube for
Cut it
over
in
20
right
years.
now. But I think you bring up a good point too, Ben. It's the and Jess, the First Amendment, freedom of speech, right? And then even having like an open dialogue and a debate, right? But I guess as lawyers, like how far does that go, right?
It's tough, man, because like that guy clearly relies on rage bait. And then the opposite of him is there's that dude, I think his name's Jordan on The Daily Show, and he's fucking hilarious. He goes to like all the conservative events, and he just asks the people questions. But he finds like the most ignorant people to ask questions and just makes them look dumb. Like, obviously, politically, I kind of find the Jordan guy funny and, Mr. Kirk a little offensive. But at the same time, like, as a public figure, you're setting yourself up for a situation where wingnuts are going to come out and go after you. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm interested, because this happened in Utah. Like, Utah's pretty conservative. Mm-hmm. So I'm actually curious as to see who took the shot. Is it somebody who's, like, crazy liberal, or is it somebody who's, like, super conservative, Alex Jones type, who's pissed off about the Epstein files and thinks, like, Charlie Kirk has helped keep them hidden. But like, I tell you what, if I was Charlie Kirk's family, I'd be suing the shit out of the promoter, be suing the shit out of the university, everybody for negligent security, you know, for so many things.
Yes.
Nobody deserves to die like that. Nobody deserves to have their death so graphically filmed. It's bad. Like, and the close-ups and the things I've seen are rough.
Real bad. Yeah. Yeah, I think they said there was over 3,000 students that attended, or people that were there, and six cops?
There were 6 uniformed officers. They said there were plainclothes officers too, but they didn't give the number. And then I believe that Charlie Kirk also had
Personal security.
private security.
Private security, yeah.
But you're not going to be able to cover it. Like, you know, one of the things a professional sniper was talking about is that you have a bowl-shaped structure, you know, and you have to have an elevated position. Like,
Yeah, that's like kill zone.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah, that's like a perfect setup for a sniper.
so I appreciate the dialogue, and I appreciate that. And the question you actually asked, getting back to it, is the idea of how far does the First Amendment go? I forget the president who said, you know, essentially that my right to swing my fist ends at your face, which means until I physically harm you, I have a right to do things. And so Charlie Kirk, he said a lot of offensive shit, but it is his right in this country to say that. Unfortunately, the way we've treated the Constitution, probably since I'd say September 11th, ironically enough, 2001, is we've constantly limited our rights. And so we're getting to this idea that we don't have the rights we used to have, and that they should be limited in some way. And people are feeling that way, especially, you know, when it comes to speech. Like, I can say what I want, but you definitely can't say what you want. And so this extremism, unfortunately, is leading to assassination. Sage brought up Minnesota, you know, Charlie Kirk here. It's fucking nuts.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Just like a president, just like our president.
Yeah.
Just like Donald Trump. And they
Had homie ain't my
tried to
president.
Assassinate him. So it's just like anybody going off of like voicing their opinion is bound to.
Although I will say, and sorry to cut you off, like when he got zinged, like when Trump got zinged, the look on his face after he realized the fucking guy missed was like pure joy. He's like, fuck yeah. And I have to say that was one of those awesome looks I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, like the world that we live in is crazy. And then you have something where you're talking about like limiting rights, which is something that I actually want to talk about in a little bit and kind of circle back to. But as we're still kind of like diving into this entire situation, you had brought up like his family suing the promoters, universities, and things like that. But what about the people that are actually attending? Like, is there any like plausible cases for if somebody got ran over or trampled or like maybe trauma things in the future, stuff like that?
Emotional distress, if you actually saw it, if you're that close.
Well, I was thinking more like Astroworld with Travis Scott.
Yeah, premise liability stuff.
Yeah, like where you don't have the right venue, and so things can lead to people.
Yeah, I didn't really hear of anyone else getting injured though. Like even if like shots fired and everyone's running in a panic and someone twists their knee or something, I didn't hear anyone getting injured, other than Kirk. But yeah, if there's
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. If there's potential injuries, like Ben brought up the concert example, you can hold the venue liable if they didn't safeguard their facility or their premise, knowing that 3,000 people are going to be there. If something did go wrong, they have to make sure they're ready for that.
So what I had brought up earlier was the guy that they first said was the shooter that had his face plastered all over the media, all over social media, people threatening him, saying he should die. Like, what kind of case does he have, if any?
Yeah, old ass Bernie Sanders looking dude.
Kind of cross between Bernie Sanders and Larry David.
You see, that's the thing. That's why, you know, you'll notice funny things in situations like that where the guy's totally innocent. He did seem a little bit off, I'm not going to lie.
He didn't look all, and maybe that's why he'll stop.
But like the officers, they hit him with an obstruction once they released him. And what my take on it is that they did that because as soon as an officer is engaged in their official duty, they have qualified immunity. So you can't necessarily go after an officer in a situation where he's effectuating a lawful arrest.
Right.
Now, you know, there definitely appear to be some defamatory things that occurred during that, saying, you know, we have the suspect and things of that nature, because clearly you let him go. And I think there is some action there, but like, how much sympathy is a guy like that going to have in Utah after a conservative was shot at an event?
Right.
But you can always fuck around and find out, right?
What kind of obstruction did he do?
Well, I think it was when he was falling down, he did not cooperate
Yeah.
with the officers removing him from the scene.
He impeded their investigation,
Yes.
or he didn't give a answer in a quick manner. But me and Ben both have a criminal defense background, so typically when charges don't stick, they'll hit you with an
Yeah, you
obstruction
always get an
charge or
obstruction.
trespassing. You got to hit him with some kind of criminal charge, because if you just let some guy go with no charges, then you're going to be kind of liable for detaining someone that might not have been a lawful
It's
detainee.
kind of
Yourself
like,
up for
remember
lawsuit.
when there was the bombing at the Atlanta Olympics?
92, 96?
I want to say 96. You know, and then they went after like Richard Jewell, you know,
Yeah.
who like completely was innocent when all was said
Wasn't
and
there a
done.
Netflix show on that?
I think they
I
did
think
have
Netflix
one,
did a little.
Is that the security
documentary.
guard?
That was the security
Yeah,
guard,
yeah.
and it turned out there was actually some crazy ass anti-abortion activist
Mm-hmm.
who actually did it. But like that poor guy got his name dragged through the mud.
And do you remember the name of the actual bomber?
I want to say it was Eric, and I can't think of his last name.
Exactly, but
Yeah.
you remember the guy that was falsely accused.
Oh, yeah. Well, that guy's that guy. Eric, you're a bastard.
So earlier you'd brought up kind of tightening restrictions, like ever since 9/11, we're kind of almost playing this game of like losing certain
Freedoms.
losing certain freedoms
Yeah.
in exchange for air quotes security, right?
Yeah.
And like that is what the basis of a government is, right? We give up certain freedoms to get security in hopes that the payoff is in the right direction. So with that kind of going is, as we have more things that come out like this, whether it's like the stabbing on the train, the shooting of Kirk, or more gun control style things, kind of where do you think that plays into some of those freedoms? And as attorneys with criminal defense backgrounds, like, have you guys had to defend people when it comes to like situations with firearms?
Oh, all day long. Yeah, murders. You know, assaults with deadly weapons. You know, we were doing a reaction video earlier where there was, you know, I thought it was a 12-year-old boy. Turns out it was a, you know, adult woman like waving a gun around and shooting. You know, that's assault with a deadly weapon. And so it's interesting that, you know, and I think we talked about this before, like in the past, you know, 20 years, there's only been one piece of gun control legislation that's actually passed, and that was during a conservative. That was Trump when they banned the bump stocks after, you know, Route 51.
Yeah.
91.
Route 91, I forget. Area 51 is what I was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, Route 91, the concert by Mandalay Bay. That dude used a bump stock to kill a shit ton of people. It was 50 plus. And so they banned bump stocks. The Supreme Court actually overturned that later. But yeah, their First Amendment has been limited. You know, there's something called the Establishment Clause in the First Amendment, which says that you can't put any religion above the other. I would argue during the current administration, we have violated the Establishment Clause incredibly because we're putting one religion above the others. And so the, you know, what do you call it, Equal Protection Clause, which applies to everybody, should have rights under the same rights under the Constitution. That's under attack. The only one that really, truly hasn't been touched is the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment regarding guns, and to be fair, I have more than one gun, less than 10 guns. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. But I'm not necessarily a gun control advocate, but I am necessarily a control the people who have the, you know, who can pull the trigger advocate. But yeah, the Second Amendment is the one amendment in the Bill of Rights, I think, that has not been touched since the 90s at the, you know, latest.
Agreed.
So with that,